It's on?
Yep.
Okay. So here we are at the Ohio Department of Agriculture. This building was being built when the call went out for artists to do commission work for this space. And the process, or the Percent for Art program, is run through the Ohio Arts Council. And it's a program that there was a law passed in the state legislature that says that 1% of the budget of any building that uses state money and has a budget of over $5,000 must spend 1% of the total budget on artwork. And I happen to think it's a really good law. Art, in my opinion, is a necessary part of life and not a luxury or a frill or something that you get rid of first if you have to cut your budget. The people that benefit from the program are the people that work in buildings like this one. When I started working on this project, it took about a year to make the piece, and then it took about 5 weeks to install, and you'll see why when we go in. I'll explain. But the director here started off kind of making noises about, oh, I don't know why I have to spend the money on this. And at the end, he's bragging about it, to everybody that walked through the door. So I think it worked out pretty well. Let's go see. So here we are at the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and the first piece that we're going to look at is king corn. Since corn is the premier agricultural product of Ohio, I thought it would be appropriate to pay homage to corn, and so I created this 18-foot tall corn plant. And it's the first time that I had used wire inside of my coils. I wanted the leaves to really hold their shape and over time, and so there is wire inside of the leaves. The ears of corn are knotted, my first love, knotting. And so this piece took about 6 months to make. It's in sections. It took a couple of days to install. It's attached to the wall in several places. And since it is made out of natural sisal, we don't have to worry about fading or anything like that. The material just yellows over time and gets a nice patina to it, which I think adds to the beauty of the piece. King corn was the piece that came before the flowers. The first time I'd used
You're on camera.
wire inside of the coils. So, how does one design for a space like this? Generally, when the prospectus goes out for a Percent for Art commission, a lot of times there are architectural drawings that show where the artwork will finally go. It's also important to understand what the company's interests are, what message they're trying to promote, what their main component is, to try to incorporate that with the artwork. In this particular situation, obviously the Ohio Department of Agriculture wanted to celebrate that, agriculture in Ohio, and so this was a really good fit for me with the corn particularly. So when one is approaching something like this, it's important to understand the client. You have to know what the client is looking for and then tailor your proposal to fit that need. Usually the process is that they put out a call for entries. Artists submit slides, a review panel, usually consisting of members of the company, local artists, and representatives from the Ohio Arts Council or the local board, in whatever state it's in, then review all of the slides that have been submitted. They select finalists, usually anywhere from 3 to 5 finalists. The finalists then do actual physical proposals for the piece. The proposal, then the artist personally presents the proposal to the committee, elaborating on what the artwork will be like, what the impact will be, what the how it will fit within the space and the framework and the mission of the company. And then they select the winning artist. Usually the artist is paid for that proposal. And then when the artist is selected, there's generally anywhere from 6 months to a year. I had a year to do this piece. And I was in close communication with the architects as well as with representatives out here at the Department of Agriculture. They were very cooperative when we were installing the piece, and as I said, I had a 35-foot scaffolding here for Patterns of Life for about 5 weeks. The building was still in progress, but they were people were in the offices here, so they had to kind of work around my clutter. Overall, though, I've had very positive feedback from the people here at the Ohio Department of Agriculture, and everyone that's seen the pieces out here has felt that they were really a good match for the facility. So I'm very pleased with that. So we're sitting here with my the largest piece that I've ever done behind me, Patterns of Life. The piece is 10 by 25 feet. It is represents the history of farming in Ohio, showing the different techniques of crop rotation, the Amish practice of tying the corn shocks together, and there's even an Indian mound in the piece, the first farmers of Ohio. Patterns of Life took about 6 months to make, and it took 5 weeks to install. I made a pattern the same size as the piece, a big cardboard pattern, and cut out the individual fields, so it's almost like a jigsaw puzzle. So then I would take the pattern piece, started in the upper right-hand corner, and laid that cardboard piece out on my work table, and then laid the coils on it, sewed the coils together on the back, glued a canvas backing onto the back of the field, and then went on to the next piece. So each field is an independent unit. It's coils that are sewn together and then glued to a canvas backing. When we got out here to install, we had the builders frame up a 10 by 25 foot piece in the wall that was all plywood that we could attach to. So when it came time to install the piece, we had a 35-foot scaffolding and a cherry picker in here, and we started with that first field, applied glue to the wall, put the field in place, and then screwed the field into the wall. So the whole piece is glued and screwed into the wall, so it's part of the building now. So each field went on one at a time, and the river, the actual framework that the coils are attached to is somewhat topographical. There are places where it's higher than other places, and then the river actually comes down about 4 inches to the level of the wall itself. The coils of the river were attached one at a time, glued and then nailed with little tiny nails onto the surface. As well, the river bank was done the same way, and that was very time consuming. And then I went back and was able to create the areas between the fields. You know, if you look at a farm field, you see in between the fields there's a tree line. And so that was I used that opportunity to add the trees and things and make the transition from one field to the other. I've always been intrigued in flying of the patchwork quality of the earth when you fly over the farm fields. And so I was really excited to do this piece. It was a great opportunity, and I'm very pleased with the outcome. After we installed the piece and shot a video panning up the piece, and felt like I was flying in a helicopter very low over a mythical land, a magical land. There are a couple of things I wanted to share with you. One is talking about promotions, and I've mentioned the Percent for Art program, which is administered through the Ohio Arts Council, and artists submit slides, and then we receive notices of Percent for Art jobs that we can apply for. So that's one way to make contact with potential buyers for this scale of artwork. Another vehicle that I've used in the past is something called the Guild, which is a source book of American artists, and is actually produced a book for about 10 years. I was in several of them, and that goes out to designers and architects all over the country. And that was also successful for me, a way to reach a broader audience. Now, of course, we have our website, larnedmarlowe.com, with my husband Eric Marlowe, who's also a jewelry designer. And so we're working on trying to link with different sites to get the work out in that way. I guess I'm not different from most artists, that I'm much more interested in making the work than in promoting the work. And there needs to be some kind of happy medium there. I have worked with art agents from time to time, and that was moderately successful. I think really word of mouth probably works as well as anything. Another often asked question is, what are my influences? Where do I get my ideas? Well, for the flowers, I've always really admired Georgia O'Keeffe and studied her and really loved her kind of in-your-face attitude. She said that she made the flowers, her flower paintings, very large so that you could not ignore them. And so I've kind of done the same thing with my flowers. Obviously, the inspiration from this piece was what you see when you fly over the landscape. Other than that, sometimes an idea will pop into my head. I guess you could call that the muse. So another often asked question of all artists, I'm not the only one that get this question, is how long did it take you to make that piece? And so I give the answer that a friend of mine who's a potter gives, and that is, this particular piece took 6 months and 25 years to be able to execute this piece.